184,000 views when you put the teenage girl in the thumbnail. Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel, Hannah Needs to Yell, and today I need to yell about family vlogging. It's been a controversial issue here on YouTube pretty much since it started being a thing, and today it's a connection between two otherwise unrelated counterparts, Dawson and Shari Franke, the eldest daughter of family vlogging Mormon couple Kevin and Ruby Franke, and their channel, 8 Passengers. This video was inspired in part by a comment that was left by one of my viewers, so if you want to suggest ideas for videos, comment below. I'm always taking suggestions, and like the video, subscribe to my channel, set your notifications to all. If you like this video, please share it with a pal. That really helps, yada yada. Okay, we got through that part. The question that this commenter brought up was about Dawson potentially exploiting his future child before they even existed. And as I was pondering that idea, because there are several different ways to think about and approach Ryland and Shane's journey to becoming fathers, which is what they're documenting right now on Ryland Adams' vlog channel. Lucky for me, serendipity, on April 5th of 2023, Shari Franke was featured on Into the Light podcast, a Mormon podcast where she shared her story, largely including references to, reactions to, her assessment of her experience growing up in a family vlogging family. So that's what I want to talk about today. Right now we're seeing two different phases of family vlogging. Dawson is at the before stage. He doesn't have a child yet, but he's on his way, and he seems to be gearing up with his husband Ryland for a life of potential daddy vlogging, because you don't put this much attention into the becoming a parent process if you're not going to also put some effort and attention into the actual parenting process, right? Like, it seems foreshadowing, to say the least. And then you have Shari Franke, the after of family vlogging. One of the few children old enough to have grown up in the world of YouTube family vlogging and be able now as an adult to speak out about that experience. If Shane is considering whether or not to start a family vlog with his new potential child or children, I think that he would learn a lot from listening to Shari and her story. So I want to make that easy for him today, and for anybody else who's considering maybe starting their own family vlog, as I think that the main question around family vlogging has always been, is this craft informative or exploitative? I think that a lot of people who choose to become family vloggers choose to do it in a way to inform other future parents or current parents about their methods, what's working for them, what's not, and to find community. But at the same time, I think a lot of onlookers see it as exploitative because of the money that is made through YouTube's partner program, because of the lack of privacy that is being thrust upon children before they're able to consent to anything, let alone being on film as a child or a baby. And especially when we know that there are people who watch family vlogs for nefarious purposes, it does seem like a safety issue as well. So to answer this big question of, is family vlogging informative or exploitative, we're going to take a look at these two unique circumstances. Dawson, the problematic comeback king, who has not started his family vlog yet, but seems to be on his way, and Shari Franke, one of few people on this platform who can adequately speak to the experience of growing up in a family vlogging family and what that means for the child, not the parent. In a little bit, we're going to give Shari the time, the space, the voice that she has earned by bravely stepping forward to tell her story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. However, before we do that, I want to tell you why I think that Shane needs to listen to her, and what it is about his recent behavior that makes me think he's on the path to starting family vlogging. With that being said, clearly we have a lot to talk about today, so we're about to get into it. Before we do, just a quick reminder, we're not going to send hate to anybody in this video, especially because everything that's being said in this video is my analysis, my speculation, my hypothesis, my opinion. Take everything in here with a grain of salt. And certainly leave me your opinions and your hypotheses and your speculation in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear what you all have to say on this topic. I think that's everything. So, are you ready? Do you have a drink? Do you have a snack? Are you cozy? Are you ready to settle in? Good. Let's dive in. Telltale signs of a future family vlogger. So before we get into talking about Shari and what she had to share about her life growing up as one of Kevin and Ruby Franke's 8 passengers, first I want to tell you why I think Shane Dawson is setting himself up to become a family vlogger. And yeah, so just in case you guys didn't notice, because he hasn't been getting nearly as many views as he used to, but yeah, Shane Dawson is still on the internet. Which is weird, because he was massively canceled in 2020 for things he did not properly apologize for. He lost several million subscribers from his main channel. There are so many videos on the internet about what happened at that time, so I'm not going to fully recap everything. But basically, it came out that Shane was an extremely questionable person. His early videos from like the early 2010s, because he's an OG YouTuber, started to resurface, and people started noticing all of the bigotry and all of the offensiveness of his edgelord style of video making, to put it all very mildly. And as you look at his YouTube career over time, there's not major evidence of him growing and changing as much as there's evidence of him pivoting. Every time he gets in trouble, he pivots to a different style of content. First, he pivoted to doing food videos. Then he pivoted to ghost hunting videos. Then he pivoted to docu-series that he was doing to kind of help other YouTubers rehab their reputations and get their YouTube channels refreshed. Interesting coming from him, but it also kind of makes sense because he has been able to repeatedly, no matter how many times he's called out, rebuild himself and rebuild his business and his platform. I think he knows the content cycle. Essentially, if you go away for long enough, either people will forget or a new crop of YouTube viewers will arise that will watch your stuff without any idea about the stuff that you were canceled for, and then you start reposting content again in a different category, this time makeup, Jeffree Star doing a palette, and the cycle starts over again. Don't think that we haven't noticed this trend, Shane. We have.
I've been through so many dips.
Yes.
To where it's like every 3 years I'm irrelevant, and then I reinvent, and then it goes well, and then there's a dip, and then this, and then that.
And then there's kissing on my cat, getting off in front of the poster of Will Smith. There's all the things about kids, and then there's all the blackface. Oh, wait. What were we talking about?
And I think that right now, Shane is trying to find that new content cycle that works for him.
For me, I'm like, all right, I'm figuring out what I really want to do.
After his cancellation in June of 2020, he went silent for about a year and stayed away from social media, and then came back with some ghosty, haunted content. And it did okay, but not great, certainly not comparable to what he used to do in terms of views. So then he shifted to a little bit of conspiracy theory content. The first conspiracy theory video did better than the ghost videos, and then the second conspiracy theory video did about the same, not great. And then a few months later, he started releasing a 3-part docu-series with Jeffree Star, which could have been honestly condensed into like a 45-minute video where basically him and Jeffree Star talked about a palette they never released because him and Jeffree Star got canceled because of bigotry. And that was the whole series. This anticlimactic 3-part series with Jeffree Star averaged about 3.5 million views per video, which for me would be like amazing. Like, subscribe, and share this video if you know what I mean. But for somebody like Shane with 19-ish million subscribers who used to have like 25 million subscribers, 3 million is not the level he wants to be at. A few more months passed, and then about a week ago, as of filming this, he posted Conspiracy Theories with Shane Dawson 2023, which was just a bad video. He talked about being shocked that generic foods exist. Like, we all know that Great Value Honey Nut O's are the same as General Mills Honey Nut Cheerios, just one is cheaper. We know that, right? Because Shane apparently didn't. It does give me some question about the validity of his past, if his world is truly so rocked by him finding out that toaster tarts are the same thing as Pop-Tarts?
Shut the fuck up. No way.
Anyway, this video was roasted to pieces. This video only got about 1.7 million views after a week, which for him is low. It's low. So as we can see, after his return in June of 2021, Shane Dawson has tried several different avenues on his channel without really landing on one that he feels like really connected to and that really works for his channel. In the meantime, he has established the Shane 2 channel, which is a podcast channel with himself, his husband Ryland, his brother Jared, and their cameraman Chris, and they talk about conspiracy theories. With the views that this is getting and the weekly upload schedule, this is probably the bread and butter of their income at this point. For Shane Dawson, Shane 2, his conspiracy podcast channel, is not doing great. He's got 2.79 million subscribers, which again, I would love to have. Subscribe, like, share. But for somebody like Shane, who's had such a long career and used to have, again, like 25, 27 million subscribers, something like that, you would think that he would have more than 2.79 million on this podcast channel where he's actually been uploading consistently and talking about one of the most popular topics on his channel, conspiracy theories. That was a big era of videos for him. Maybe not as much of that audience has grown with him and decided to stick around, or they've rightfully canceled him because of his bigotry that remains unresolved at this time. I don't know. Meanwhile, as all of this floating around, trying to figure things out has been going on with Shane's channels, his husband Ryland started a channel called Ryland's Vlogs. Ryland Vlogs? Ryland Vlogs, okay. His husband Ryland Adams started his own vlog channel, Ryland Vlogs, a couple of years ago, when Shane was at his height before he came crashing down.
This woman is a fucking... Oh my god.
So how is it that so many editorial outlets knew that something was coming before I...
Because you message drama channels!
As a victim of abuse myself.
Oh my god. You're fake crying. You are fake crying! You are fake crying! That is not real!
Ryland took to Twitter to say, Tati Westbrook, a masterclass in manipulation. Hope you enjoy those sold out vitamins that made you millions in minutes from Shane's support, you two-faced liar.
At first, the videos on Ryland's vlogging channel were very much centered around him. There's some decoration videos, our house has a problem, scary night. But as you scroll through Ryland's videos on this channel, you'll notice after a series of thumbnails that just include Ryland, perhaps Morgan, his family members, then there's one that's himself, his at the time boyfriend Shane, and the title, "We're Moving, Not Clickbait." And ever since this video, every single video on Ryland's vlog channel includes both of their faces in the thumbnail, to the extent that it's no longer Ryland's vlog channel, it's Shane and Ryland's vlog channel. Let's be honest. Now, this channel is much more cohesive than Shane's main channel. They talk about moving, they talk about getting engaged, getting married, and now, most recently, the biggest topic on their channel and the biggest subject of debate, their process toward having a baby. That's right, about 1 year ago, Shane and Ryland started the process of becoming parents, going through the IVF process, which is the stage that they're at now. And as you scroll through the Ryland Vlogs channel, about every other video, maybe every third video, has something to do with their potential future baby, and the more current you get in the timeline, the more prevalent those videos are. They've almost moved away from other topics altogether. And if the title of the video doesn't say the word baby in it, you can rest assured there's baby content in that video. The emerging theme of baby on Ryland's vlog channel does have people paying attention. I believe that there are positives and negatives to Shane and and Ryland filming and posting their journey with surrogacy, IVF, becoming parents, in terms of like, it's not an experience that everybody goes through. It can be informative, it can be educational. That's not the route that Shane and Ryland are going with it, but let's pretend, let's say, what if we were in an ideal world? It's a conversation that needs to be opened up. It is personal, it is medical. It's not something that you're gonna necessarily just chit chat about with your coworker. It can be a source of community for couples to share their experiences with this process and, you know, build some connections, have a place where they can talk about this. But at the same time, I wish that Shane and Ryland were taking a more informative approach to this process rather than just their own emotional reaction. This seems to be content that is sticking and that is working well for Shane and Ryland. And I think that if Shane has been looking for what's the thing that's going to stick, a baby is going to stick for at least 18 years. So perhaps documenting the process of becoming parents and how that is received. Is there a way of testing the waters to see how things would go if they documented actual parenting once the baby arrives?
We need to talk about this again, but I don't want to show our baby on camera, which is also weird because we're showing this process and then we're just gonna be like, never mind.
I think there's ways that you could go about it, like
Emojis.
Yeah, emojis. Did you know that emojis can easily be removed?
Who knows? Maybe everything will change by the time it happens.
If it goes over well, it's very possible, in my opinion, in my analysis, that Shane Dawson could easily pivot into this 18-year-long content strategy of family vlogging. It seems logical, it seems monetizable, it seems dependable as long as the kid stays alive. God hope so. And with the success of popular family vlogs like the Ace Family, like 8 Passengers, there's plenty of opportunity there to make money. And it's not like Shane has not done complete pivots. I mean, he started out with raunchy comedy videos that you should never watch nor show your children. And by the end of all of his different pivots, he ended up producing a makeup palette with Jeffree Star. The guy's got range, is what I'm saying. He can pivot, he can sashay, he can sway, he can twirl, he can spin, he can pirouette his way from one topic to another seamlessly. Those are the signs that I see. Shane's floundering upon returning from his 2020 cancellation, trying to find a direction to take his content, not really succeeding, until he lands on the longevity and interest sparked by talking about his potential baby or babies that do not yet exist. Shane's appearance in the Ryland Vlogs channel to the extent that now he's in every video, if not kind of taking over them, because he's a noticeable presence in those videos. There are not many where it feels like Ryland is in the lead the whole time. And then landing on baby content and seeing how that has done pretty successfully on this channel. They seem to be really loving creating this content, so maybe they're just waiting for the audience to adjust. If these pregnancy process, becoming fathers videos go over well and they establish an audience, it doesn't make sense that they would stop putting out baby videos. After all of that lead up, building an audience, building a following, building interest around the topic of their future baby or babies. Once the baby is born, why would they stop? You know? And I have more to discuss about the impacts of family vlogging later on in this video, so I'm just going to put a pin in that. But I'm just here to say, if I was Shane Dawson, this would seem like the clearest, cleanest path forward. Because of element 4, which has yet to reveal itself, but is inevitable, the new audience that Shane would gain through starting a family vlog, his videos getting suggested to a whole new group of people who are interested in parenting, interested in kids, and have no interest in drama, makeup, food videos, conspiracy, other stuff that Shane has done. It's likely that they'll be unaware of that stuff, and it's also likely that by the time they become aware, they'll be so attached to Shane and Ryland's child or children that they'll put it aside so that they can keep watching footage of a child. Which brings us back to the main question of this video. Is family vlogging informative or exploitative? I have more thoughts about that, which I'll get to later, but before I do, I think we should hear first from Shari Franke.
Choices of a former family vlogger.
Shari Franke is the eldest daughter of Kevin and Ruby Franke, who are Mormon family vloggers running the channel 8 Passengers. Ruby and Kevin gained infamy a few years ago when several of their harsh parenting tactics went viral. Some notable ones include Ruby Franke, Shari's mother, talking about when her 5 or 6-year-old daughter forgot lunch at home, and then the teacher called Ruby to say, "Hey, your daughter has no lunch. Can I give her a school lunch?" Ruby's response was, "No, don't give her any lunch. She can be hungry for a few hours because it will teach her the lesson of don't forget your lunch." So, there's that. Another infamous parenting moment has to do with their son, who they sent away to a wilderness training camp because he was being a rebellious teenage boy. Very bad boy, so they sent him away to wilderness camp, I guess to help him overcome whatever difficulties inside him were making him be rebellious, is like how Kevin and Ruby thought about it. I don't know. They made him sleep on a beanbag instead of a bed for like 9 months or something in the basement. And they talked about it on the internet. They shared this shit. And then they got called out for it. And then they were like, their response to everybody was, well, if you find our parenting tactics to be too harsh, maybe you should look inside of you and find out why you feel so affected by our parenting. Just like this idea that we were all overreacting or too sensitive, or there was something inside of us that was the problem, not their borderline abusive parenting tactics, in my opinion. So this is the kind of family environment that Shari was growing up in, as well as just, let me make this disclaimer. The Franke family is Mormon. Kevin and Ruby Franke are Mormon. They and their family live and grew up in Utah, so they're in a very Mormon community as well. That is definitely a topic of conversation on their channel, as well as when Shari did this podcast where she spoke about her experience growing up in a family vlogging family. She did speak a lot about her spiritual journey with Mormonism, as well as with this like sub-Mormon group. We all assume that it's the Connexions group that Ruby helps to run. Shari did not name it, but based on just the history of their family, that's the only group it could have been. She didn't need to say it, we all knew. It was supposed to be like a self-help group or like a family help group ran by Ruby Franke and Jody Hillebrand. It's called Connexions, and it is a problem. Not everyone who family vlogs is Mormon. Not every Mormon is as strict as Kevin and Ruby, and certainly not every Mormon got involved in this group. There is a thick conversation to be had there about those things. I cannot have it in this video. Specifically, we're not discussing the spiritual parts of this podcast Shari did. We're not discussing the ethics or culture of Mormonism, which, by the way, I should be saying the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or LDS for short. My apologies, I keep forgetting that the name changed. And specifically, we're not going to address whether or not LDS is a cult, which there are a lot of people who think it is. There are a lot of people who think it's not. And we're also not going to discuss whether or not Connexions is a cultier cult within the cult, Russian nesting doll of cults kind of situation. Today is not the day. Because of my past in a high control Christian group, it is hard for me to talk about that aspect of this quickly, concisely. It is so worthwhile to have that conversation, but in a separate context, especially because I don't think that it applies to the situation of Shane and Ryland potentially becoming family vloggers, because as far as I know, they're not religious people. They're certainly not in an organized religion that I know of, so it would be off topic to discuss that stuff. So let me know if you want this video. If you don't, that's fine. I will say that Jordan and McKay, an ex-Mormon channel that I follow here on YouTube, recently did a video reacting to Shari's interview, so I feel like that would be a good resource for those who are interested. I will also let you know, if you're interested in listening to Shari's to the podcast that Shari spoke on, I think it's a good listen for most people. The only people who I would say, trigger warning a little bit, is people like me who have religious trauma in their past. There's a lot of spiritual conversation, a lot of spiritual talk, very spiritualized language, churchy talk. So if that brings up memories for you, brings up those discomfort feelings. I'm going to include the relevant clips here in my video if you're just curious about the family vlogging element of what Shari talked about. You don't have to go seeking out the podcast to hear everything if that's going to be triggering for you. Now, with all of that being disclaimed, Shari went on a Mormon podcast called Into the Light. Their episode was published on April 5th, and she talked a lot about her experience as a child growing up in a family vlogging family. They started the vlog when she was 12 years old. She wasn't one of the little ones. Like I mentioned, Ruby has like a 5 or 6 year old that's part of her vlogs. She does not limit who is in the vlog based on their age or anything like that. And so we can see the impacts that this family vlogging lifestyle had on Shari, even though she was a little bit older when they started. So let's take a listen to what Shari has to say, and then I'll meet you back here dressed differently because I filmed on a different day to talk about why I think that Shane and Ryland should listen to Shari and her experience and take it into considerable account when they're deciding whether or not to continue down this path of family vlogging. My nose contour was not effective today. Holy shit. My nose looks disfigured. Just ignore it, okay? Just please, just pretend you don't notice. So let's take a look at Shari Franke's feature on the Into the Light podcast. Again, for a more complete reaction to this complete podcast, I do recommend that you check out the video that Jordan and McKay just made. They do offer a specific perspective because the two of them are ex-Mormon, but the Mormon perspective is clearly presented in this podcast. Now, the first 5 minutes or so of this podcast is like light introduction stuff. They don't really say anything riveting for our purposes until around 5 minutes and 15 seconds in. So let me play you a little bit of that.
How was it growing up being on camera all the time? Because it's a lot, right?
Yeah, so I started being on camera. I should remember the exact age. I was like 12, maybe 13-ish.
Yeah.
I thought it was strange at first, honestly. I was like, this is weird. Like, we take a camera with us everywhere. And
oh, was that like legit?
yeah, like we took a camera when we'd go on vacations. We'd film going to the store. We'd just like always kind of film everything. But over the years, like I got used to it more. It's like, yeah, this is like our job. Like, this is how we pay for vacations. This is how we get to do fun stuff. Like, you don't love it every day, but you do it because it's work.
So there's a lot to unpack in just that clip. First of all, beginning filming at the age of 12, what a delicate age to start suddenly being on camera all the time. Something that Marky pointed out in his coverage of this podcast and this situation is that mentality that Shari shares that she had even when she was a kid, that being in a vlog is working. Being recorded all the time was how they pay for fun trips and how they make money. When we think about the impacts of family vlogging, I think parents often think that their children are unaware of the camera, or that the parent is just trying to like document and just go, oh, go ahead, go play, that's fine. But clearly Shari was aware of the money that came in due to the family vlog, which meant due to her presence on camera all the time, it seemed.
We take a camera with us everywhere and we just like always kind of film everything.
So that is a lot of pressure to put on a kid. We're not going to be able to go on this vacation unless we do another vlog, unless we whatever.
Yeah, this is like our job. This is how we pay for vacations. This is how we get to do fun stuff.
So that's why child labor laws exist. Shari is the oldest kid in this family, so if she was 12 when they started filming, everybody else was so much younger. So they were all working from this young and younger and younger and younger age. And if anybody has any questions about like, oh, they don't think of it as work, clearly they do. As the podcast keeps going, Shari does tell us that it was hard on her to be in the limelight, especially during junior high, and specifically refers to the exact thing that every critical YouTuber warns parents about when it comes to family vlogging.
I feel like as I got older, people got like meaner in the comments. They would say things like, oh, she's just a Molly Mormon, like she's just gonna grow up, become a baby making machine. Like,
wow. Oh my gosh.
Just because she's a member of the church. And so there was a lot of attack on
at
religion.
13.
Yeah.
People have like the typical bully and like the
right.
person making
but
fun
it
of
was
you at
like
school.
strangers
who are grown adults.
Yeah.
How did that affect you as a young kid?
I found myself like I would tell myself, it doesn't matter what they say. Like I know how I feel about myself. And I think I believed that for a while.
Yeah.
But I always would find myself just like checking comments on Instagram, on YouTube, just to see what people had said about me.
Yeah.
Whether it be good or bad, you feel like it was okay.
Because I just wanted to like be aware of what people were saying, I guess. And that probably got to like an unhealthy point where I was just checking all the time. And even through college, sometimes I've had to just like check and check and check. And,
really?
Yeah. So luckily, I'm like breaking that habit.
Mm-hmm.
People who are telling you not to do family vlogs are not doing it to come for your bag or to hate. We're doing it to protect your child's mental health. Now, keep in mind that Shari is the oldest of 6 children in this family. And at the age of 12 or 13, she was developing these habits. She describes this obsessive need to check comments and just see what people are saying. The mean comments she would get, criticizing her religion, criticizing her for being like a dedicated student, criticizing her lack of a social life as if they know based on videos. The way that Shari found out about this was by reading the comments herself and seeing these, as she says, grown adult strangers picking on a little kid. She's still working on breaking that habit of feeling the need to always check comments and just see what people are saying about her. And I get it. Anybody who's in social media and trying to professionally make a career of it, you want to have a good relationship with your audience, so you need to see what your audience is saying. And this is the problem with family vlogging and family channels. Parents want to pretend that the channel is about them and their parenting and their techniques and tactics and life hacks and skills that pay the bills. But for a lot of audience members, it's about the kids and it's about watching the kids grow up. I did not watch John and Kate +8 to watch Kate Gosselin say I did not care. I wanted to see these cute little babies running around. I admit it. I was a kid when that show was on. I didn't realize the issue around like constantly filming and airing the lives of toddlers and little children. People who are watching family vloggers are doing it for the family, for the kids, including people who do so for nefarious purposes. She was 12 when they started this family vlog. She was the oldest kid with the most developed brain. She was able to kind of develop coping mechanisms, or at least start to.
Like I would tell myself, it doesn't matter what they say. Like I know how I feel about myself. And I think I believed that for a while.
But imagine her younger siblings, her 5 younger siblings, most of whom were old enough to be able to read. If all those little kids are in the comments reading nasty things being said to them by adult strangers, first of all, as a child in a family vlog, you're being put on the internet without your consent. Things are being allowed to be said to you that you have no control over. If it was my family and I was doing a family vlog, which I wouldn't, but if I did, if I knew that my kids were reading them, I also would have moderated the comments so that comments are not made degrading my 12-year-old daughter and her faith and her personality and her potential and her life. You could always say, don't read the comments, but the younger a child is, the less impulse control they have. Technically, as long as they had any access to the internet, they would have been able to go find those comments and read them. And I also have to say, I feel like the whole mentality of just don't read the comments is impractical. It's unrealistic. When you're forming a social media career, you have to interact with your audience. That's how you have an audience. Yes, you make good content, but a lot of times you're also responsive to the content that your audience members are asking for. If there's a stone wall between you, the creator, and the audience doesn't form, because on social media, they're looking for someone relatable. They're looking for a community, not just a TV show to watch and move on with their lives. They get that from Netflix. And while an adult may be capable of establishing a good balance there and good boundaries and so on, a 12-year-old child and 5 younger children certainly can't, or they at least need coaching. And Shari does not talk about how her mom was helping her to weed out how to interpret this, whatever. She was talking about her teaching herself about how to feel about the comments. And to me, that's not a great sign about Kevin and Ruby's potential parenting or lack thereof in this department. I feel like there's just a general lack of protection going on here between Ruby and Kevin over their children. who they are the stewards of until they become adults. As much as Ruby wants to sit there in her Connexions meetings and talk about how you're not responsible for other people's emotions, what I think you're saying is that you're not taking responsibility for the consequences of your actions. You decided to have children, which means that you take on the responsibility of raising them, part of which includes protecting them from strangers. And that includes on the internet. Even though Kevin and Ruby stopped the 8 Passengers channel a couple of years ago when Ruby moved on to the Connexions thing, which we are going to briefly discuss, by the way, you'll see. The impacts of what happened while that channel was ongoing are still with Shari now. She still has that need to be checking for confirmation and approval from the comments is usually what it comes down to at the end of the day. So I'm glad that she's working on that habit. This is why people advise against creating family channels. This is why we critique people who do, because inevitably those channels are more focused on the children than the parents. The negative impacts on the children are greater, and the children don't get any choice in the matter. They just exist, and their parents are the ones who choose whether or not to pull out a camera. So please understand that people who critique family channels, family vloggers, whatever, are not doing it to hate. It's for the sake of your kids. And as we can clearly see, based on the impacts of that cute little family vlog on Shari, now as an adult, there was reason for concern here. At this point in the podcast, the conversation starts transitioning in a few different directions. One, they start talking with Shari more about her Mormon faith. And the biggest thing that I'm going to say about that is that her and her family and her ward, apparently, their approach to the Mormon faith and how to live that was not like a progressive approach. It seems like much more of a conservative 80s perfectionist fire and brimstone approach to Mormonism. So I'm not saying that every person who is a Mormon is living a life full of anxiety the way that Shari did, but there are some who do, and Shari was one of them. She also goes on to discuss, without naming it, the self-help group called Connexions that Ruby Franke got her family into when Shari was in 10th grade. To put it mildly, Connexions did not help Shari with relieving her anxiety. You can hear more about that experience in the podcast, but one thing I want to shout out. Shari and the podcast hosts take care to draw a line between therapists and life coaches, which is the current certification held by Jody Hildebrand. She used to be a therapist. Now she's a life coach because she got herself in trouble as a therapist. They didn't get into that specific situation in this podcast, but they certainly imply and make some references. So I wanted to show you that and pop in to say I appreciate them doing that.
And I think we should throw a disclaimer out there that life coaching is a very controversial space right now in the mental health field.
Yes.
Because
there's low accountability.
There's very low accountability. You don't need a license to become, like, there's no state certification for life coaching. And so you have to be very, very, very careful and research very deeply if you turn to life coaching in any sense, because literally anybody and their dog could become a life coach and say they're a quote unquote certified life coach.
Versus therapy, which is, I don't know.
Like therapy counselors, you need a license, you need
a degree.
A couple different degrees.
Yeah.
A very intense licensure exam and tons
and then you're also
hours.
Under the board, like the Utah Doppel, where it's like you can file a complaint, they can take away your license.
Oh wow.
But
suspended, revoked.
Yeah.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
It's a very state run. It makes it a lot more secure and safe.
For sure.
As far as credibility goes, definitely therapists and counselors have more official
So this
credentials.
was a life coach group.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that once Shari started seeing a therapist, she saw the difference in quality between that experience and the experience that she had with Jody and Connexions. Not that all therapists are perfect. You have to find the right fit. I think I've mentioned on this channel that I've struggled with finding the right therapist in the past. However, 10 days out of 7, I would take a therapist over a life coach. I know I said before that I'm not going to go into great detail about discussing the spiritual side of this podcast, and I'm not. And by the way, the Connections group is part of that, especially because Jody Hillebrand, who runs it, she's Mormon. Ruby Franke, who now co-runs it, is also Mormon. So there's a lot of Mormon teaching. I wouldn't say sprinkled in, it's like shoveled in wheelbarrows into their approach. I, again, don't really want to dive into that because it's going to grow too big. But I will bring up just this one point about it. I have notes for this part. The crinkle of this paper is going to bother some of y'all, and I'm sorry. I need to read. I just need to make sure I stay on task. Thus far, we've discussed the mental health implications from family vlogging on Shari. Clear to be seen, Shari brought it up on the podcast. And I mentioned how being part of the self-help group that was probably Connections did not help Shari with that baggage that she carried, essentially. When Ruby Franke became part of the Connections group, started taking her family there, she also very quickly became part of their social media presence. Ruby Franke has been part of multiple videos on the Connections YouTube channel. There is a Connections YouTube channel, don't you worry, as well as being part of their Facebook group. They're very active, answering questions that people have. Group members will bring up a situation and they'll try to give guidance. Usually the guidance always ends with whatever the problem is being the fault of whoever posted the post and some way that they need to take responsibility for the situation, even if it's somebody else doing something mean to them. I'm no psychologist. Oh, right. No, they don't believe in psychology. I'm no life coach. What would I know? So Ruby Franke, especially at this point in time, is very much a leader in this group, if not like equal at this point with Jody Hillebrand, who started it. Ruby has been a presence on the Connections YouTube channel since this video posted back on December 7th of 2020, which garnered far more views than the channel was used to getting at the time. She and her YouTube famous family can be seen sprinkled throughout Connections thumbnails from that time period. As attention and speculation and controversy has been brewing around Ruby's presence on this channel, a few months ago she posted this video with the eye-catching thumbnail title, "Why I Left 8 Passengers." This video has the most views on their channel by far, dwarfed only by a YouTube short that I'm going to mention later on, which pisses me off, so get ready for that. So it was easy for Ruby's existing fan base from the 8 Passengers channel to follow her over to Connections and see what was this new project, this new community that she has going on over here, since now they were going to be missing their daily dose of Ruby. While Ruby did make a statement about why I left 8 passengers, that is still what she is known for. People don't think, oh, Ruby Franke Connections. People think, oh, Ruby Franke, 8 passengers, strict mom, weird self-help group afterward. It doesn't start at Connections, it starts at 8 passengers. And the reason I bring that up is this. While I, in my video, am not going to dive deep into the details of the Franke family and their spiritual lives and their spiritual beliefs and their morals and their principles and the way that they live their lives, other than saying that, yeah, Ruby was strict. That's what everybody knows her for. And Shari said herself that she has anxiety. While I'm not going to dive deep into like their faith life and their spiritual life, Ruby has done that online consistently, and that is yet another choice that she has taken away from Shari. Choices, making the right choices, taking responsibility for the consequences of your choices is a huge theme within the Connections group and their teachings. So considering how important choices are to Ruby and Jody and the Connections crew, I am surprised and find it hypocritical and ironic to see how many choices Ruby consistently has taken and continues to take away from Shari and all of her kids. Especially the choice to have remained private people with no social media presence, or at least to create their own social media presence. Both of those choices, both of those options are completely off the table now. Because even though privacy is a constitutional right, apparently according to Ruby and Connections, privacy might be a privilege for children specifically, not for adults like Ruby or Kevin or Jody, who I'm sure would hate to have their privacy taken away by other people. No, even though we live in a world that includes internet creeps and the dark web and all sorts of nefarious things, children don't need need privacy because apparently it's a privilege. Certainly nothing negative could come from that mindset, and if it did, I'm sure Ruby would gird up her loins and take some rigorous personal responsibility for the consequences of her choices to not let her children have any privacy. By Ruby putting Shari, her child, in the public eye from the age of 12, she took away Shari's privacy. By documenting her and her family's spiritual lives, bringing up their faith, talking about events that they were going to, Ruby also took away Shari and the rest of her kids' spiritual privacy. And now, by publicly making videos on the Connexions channel where she talks about parenting, ergo talking about her kids, she is the one who put on display for everyone the change in their spiritual lives, the change in joining the Connexions group, the new beliefs that it taught them, and how it has impacted their family. That was not the kids' choice, not Shari's choice. Ruby has been posting these videos about her family, about their faith, discussing them directly on 8 Passengers or indirectly through Connexions for 8 years. No wonder Ruby's fans and Shari's fans and the Franke family fans are curious, and they're following the family drama and they're commenting on y'all's beliefs because you put it out there in the open. So the complexity and toxicity of this situation are the consequences of the choices that Ruby made. Speaking of which, Shari Franke went on this podcast. The episode was posted on April 5th. And I think at this point, everyone's kind of waiting with bated breath to see if and when Ruby and Connexions Lady Jody respond to what Shari has had to say about her upbringing and about her experience with Connexions especially. Now I'm filming this here on Friday, April 14th, and as of now, there's nothing on the Connexions channel that has Shari's name in the title or any reference to the Into the Light podcast that's easy to see without clicking on one of these god-awful long-form videos. But what I will say is that it does look like there is a reaction here. Let me show you. Now, this might just be me being a little conspiratorial. This may not be what this is about, but it seems like this is what this is about. You let me know your thoughts. Okay? All right. Here we have the Connexions YouTube channel. And as we can see, for the most part, they post long form videos, anywhere from 35 minutes down to 14 minutes, 15, 39, on all of these different mental health adjacent, parenting adjacent topics. So this is their typical content. And then suddenly, 7 days ago, a day or two after Shari goes on the podcast, what do we see? Oh, would you look at that? It's 2 little tiny short videos talking about denial and blame as tactics of deception. That's this series that they're doing right now on their channel. You can see all of these purple thumbnails, tactics of deception. So I just think that it's very interesting. Somehow, amidst all of these long form videos that they typically put out, suddenly, unusually, they put out these 2 little clips that are about a minute long, and they don't usually do this. None of their other videos have little tiny clips that come out as trailers for the big video coming up soon. That's not a thing. And this goes up on their channel a day or 2 after Shari speaks out about how she had a bad experience in Connexions. How odd. What a coincidence. And just to check, what about their shorts channel? Maybe they post shorts before every big video comes out. And so this is just, oopsie, they accidentally did a horizontal video instead of a vertical. So they put it there instead of in the shorts tab. Oh, would you look at that? The last time they posted a short, first of all, they're all vertical. But secondly, it's from January 25th of 2023. So they haven't posted any shorts for a while, have they? And by the way, would you look at that? There's a child in this short. It's called My Kids Don't Listen to Me. I wonder whose child that could be. And why is there a child at all?
It's Saturday morning.
Would you look at that? It's Ruby Franke and her kids. So now her children from her family vlog are being used in essentially a commercial for Connexions. This is the shit with family vlogs. If parents thought they could make good content on their own without their kids, they would make it. You know, talk about your favorite hobby. Talk about topics that are interesting to you. Talk about events in the news. There's a channel for a guy who likes taking apart old computers and looking at all the machinery inside of them. Do that. If you're like a stay-at-home parent and you feel like you want to do something to bring some income into the household, since you're not like working a job out there in the world, you want to make an independent living, help the household, do it. Make YouTube content. Does it have to involve your kids? Because certainly this one that does involve Shari's kids, shut up. Certainly this one that does involve Ruby's kids would not be here on this page if they were effective at making content without kids in it. Just to prove my point, let's look at the views on these goddamn shorts. This one is 4,000, 3,000, almost 5,000, 184,000 views when you put the teenage girl in the thumbnail, 11,000 right after, 6.5 thousand, 7.6 thousand. You're not using your kids for views. You're not using your kids for clicks. You're not using your kids for money. You're not exploiting their very existence, is what you're going to tell me? I have questions and doubts about that myself. But back to what brought us here. To me, this looks like a response without a response to Shari's podcast comments. Both of these little minute-long videos are clips from other of their long-form videos, which makes me think that they went through their videos to clip out sections that they felt were related to the Shari situation so that they could just post these little clips to reinforce for all of their followers these two concepts so that they did not have to like make a statement about what Shari said.
When someone's in misery, when someone is in distortion, they don't want to be there by themselves. So they're yanking at anyone they can to get them to corroborate or support their position.
Gotcha.
So many people like that illusion of power that they'll go in there with you.
What power?
It's easier to lie. It's easier to hide. It's easier to go into deception. It is. It's easier.
So Shari is taking the easy way out by blaming someone. She's lying, it's deceptive, and she's using a victim mentality. Even though she was a literal child when they started this group, she was being a good student and doing what the teacher said. In my opinion, it seems that Shari did indeed take responsibility for her life. She made choices in response to the consequences that she was experiencing as a result of Ruby's actions for the whole family to join Connexions. She took responsibility, changed her actions to provide different consequences. You just don't like the actions that she chose because, in your opinion, it's not in truth, which you guys in your group have defined as the only way to live in truth is by following your group's specific principles, which honestly at times are in conflict with Mormonism. And Shari is more dedicated to Mormonism than she is dedicated to your self-help group run by a life coach who used to be a therapist who got disqualified, got her license taken away because she violated somebody's privacy, allegedly. Again, look at the Jordan and McKay channel. They have talked in depth about the Connexions group. So yeah, to me, these two unexpected little short videos do feel like a response to what Shari had to say in regards to Connexions on that podcast. These people, who Shari doesn't even talk to anymore, have the audacity to say that she is blaming and denying, and she's using tactics of deception. She's lying to everyone and blaming everyone else when it's her own fault that she feels how she feels or whatever. Okay, I guess that's a take, but it only supports exactly what Shari was saying. You are proving her point by doing this, just so you know. Maybe instead of going out of your way to do exactly the same things that she was saying you were doing, you should do a little bit of self-reflection Take some responsibility for your actions as a parent, Ruby, and as a life coach, Jody. Reflect on the consequences of your actions on other people. Take responsibility for those consequences and consider changing your actions moving forward. Shari is her own public figure, thanks to Ruby, who put her on screen since the age of 12. It is totally fair for Shari to give her opinion on all of these categories that Ruby has made public about Shari. If Ruby doesn't like Shari's opinion, tough. Shari is not responsible for your feelings. Isn't that right, Rubes? Ruby might not like hearing that, according to Shari, the Connexions group really negatively impacted her, to the extent that when Shari left the Connexions group, she says that she essentially had to be taken in by the family of a dear friend, which indicates to me that her birth family, Ruby and Kevin and siblings, are not in her life anymore. If she used to have a family and now feels that she needs a new one, where did the first family go? That is an incredibly deep, heavy, grievous topic for Shari to have to talk about, for her to have to go through. But the reason that she talks about it is because Ruby, by sharing everything publicly through her own profiles, has taken away Shari's ability to be private and not speak about it. Shari has fans now, whether she wanted them or not, thanks to Ruby. So now that she can make choices for herself, Shari has every right to speak to her fans about what's been going on over the past few years, her experience, her opinion on this whole debacle. And Ruby cannot complain about Shari's comments in the podcast if she doesn't like them or doesn't agree with them, because she took away Shari's choice in the matter, to be honest with you. She cannot complain about it now after making money off of this shit for like 8 years and counting. Ruby can just deal with those consequences of her actions and take responsibility for her part here, in spirit and in truth. Anyway, all of this goes back to Ruby and Kevin, but it seems like mostly Ruby at this point, being the person to start this family vlog, to put all of her children on camera before they were even able to give consent. Certainly, I don't think that she asked for their consent beforehand, putting them in the public eye from the time they were not even 13 years old, younger and younger and younger as you go down the line, opening them up to criticism from strangers and adults, as well as people viewing for nefarious purposes. Again, that is a thing. That is a safety issue. That is a thing that happens. Ruby leading her family into this Connexions life coaching problem and keeping her family, her children in the limelight by referring to them constantly while she's, posting on the Connexions channel. She used her family channel as a bridge into having an audience for Connexions. Ruby is the one taking away Shari's privacy, putting on blast Shari's faith, her spirit, her behavior, her personality, any issues that Ruby has with Shari, the child. She did a video about taking Shari bra shopping for the first time. Are you fucking joking me? You're gonna tell me that Shari was like all pepped to make that video? That was Shari's idea. She was like, "Oh mom, can we please film my first bra shopping experience to put in front of millions of strange men?" And you're gonna blame this on Shari. You're gonna say she needs to take responsibility for this shit? Bullshit. Wake up. Shari shared her experience very kindly and respectfully, in my opinion, especially by not naming Connexions, even though that is the only group she could have been talking about. I'm letting myself let loose a little bit emotionally because she didn't, and I know the stifled rage of living in high control. Anyways, as we can see, just based on this tiny amount of what appears to be backlash from Ruby and Jody, her Connexions leader and her mother, Shari was very brave to come forward and tell her story, even just this little bit of her story about growing up as a child of a family vlogging family. Shari never asked to be in a family vlog. She found herself there. And now, even now that she's an adult and she's no longer under Ruby's roof and she's trying to move on and do her own thing, Ruby keeps bringing her back up whenever she talks about parenting. She might not name Shari every time. You don't have to name Shari. Every time you say, my kids, my daughters my girls, that includes Shari. So I appreciate very much her bravery to step forward and share her opinion on it, her experience with it. And again, she is one of few people who is old enough to have grown up in a family vlogging family and come out to speak publicly about what that was like. Yes, she has a unique situation, the spiritual element, the self-help life coaching element of it. But let me also say, any of these family vlogging parents who, once their kids grow up and leave the nest, keep publicly referring to their children, they keep bringing them into the limelight that they never asked to be brought into. Showing that clearly all this time, as much as Ruby might like to think that it's all about her and her fans and her followers, she knows that it's all about her kids. They're the ones who are facing the lifelong impacts for actions that they never chose to take. And publicity, limelight, notoriety that was forced upon them by their parents, but mostly Ruby, in my opinion. So with that in mind, let's move back to Shane Dawson, who has not yet started a family vlog, but who I believe is well on his way to doing so. And I have some thoughts about that. I will look different. I filmed it on a different day. You know how I roll. Let's go.
Decisions of a potential family vlogger.
Now, as we loop this all back around to Shane Dawson, I promise this makes sense in my head, so I hope it makes sense in yours. I want to reiterate a big thank you to Shari Franke for being willing to share her experience publicly, because I think a lot of people have been curious for a very long time. Through this podcast, she was able to put a lot of her baggage on display, while still at the end of the day showing that she's gotten out of that bad place, she's in therapy, she's getting better, she has hope for her future, and that's what all of us really want for Shari and any other kid, any other person who grew up in a tough situation. But the tough situation and the baggage that she now is growing out of and healing from is what I really want to prevent for Shane and Ryland's future potential child. If Shane was to listen to Shari's story with an open mind, it would be loud and clear for him the negative impacts of family vlogging on her life growing up and the baggage that she still carries now into her adulthood. And because Shane and Ryland aren't Mormon and they're not going about life in that particular way, he might immediately dismiss it and say, well, that's not us. Our kid will never turn out that way. We're not doing that. But let's discuss that for a second. In order for Shane's potential future child or children not to turn out with the same baggage that Shari has, Shane and Ryland have to, 1, not get into a cult, which so far so good there, but also 2, they have to not exploit their kid or kids. And do we trust them to do that? Based on all of the available information out there, in my opinion, LOL no. One clear sign of that is the lack of helpful information that they offer in each of their baby-related vlogs. And this is where I'm bringing back the point I referred to earlier about whether or not documenting this whole IVF journey with the surrogate is a good idea, whether it's informative or more exploitative. If they wanted to do this series as an informational, educational thing, they would enter each episode being more educated themselves. They would maybe feature some doctors in their series who could describe from a professional standpoint what was going on, what is the process that they're undergoing. And they might even share some resources with the viewers, whether that's screenshots of things on screen or links in the description, whatever, but share some other information sources besides just themselves. But they're mostly just filming their own uninformed, emotional reactions to things that are happening. IVF is an emotional journey as well as a scientific one, for sure. So it is fair for them to want to share that side of things. Where there is potential for this to become exploitative is whatever they choose to do after the baby is born. I'm going to change it to baby moving forward, but Anytime I say baby, keep in mind it could be multiples. IVF does have a tendency to produce multiples. Right now, the baby vlog videos are focused on Ryland and Shane, the two consenting adults, and their journey into becoming parents. Which, by the way, I am predicting now is going to involve them trying to film their surrogate mother, possibly while she's trying to give birth, based on how they talk about wanting this poor person to like be in their kid's life, even though part of the advantage of being a surrogate is that it's a business transaction. You're only in this kid's life long enough to bring them to birth, and then you're out. You take your money and go. You don't have to have attachments. Anyway, so Ryland and Shane are on this journey as parents, and during this process, we can keep the focus on them. But once the baby is born, they have a choice to make. The responsible option is to put the camera down and stop filming their kid until they're old enough to understand and consent to being on film in front of millions of people. I'm not sure how old that is. Shari was 12 when her family started filming everything, and she still felt weird about it, felt compelled to read the comments and get a lot of negativity into her little 12-year-old mental mind. Yeah, whatever, we're keeping it, we're going with it. Mental health mind, mental mind, whatever. So how young is too young? How old is too old? I'm no expert. I'm no expert on any of this, but I'm just saying infant is too young to consent to anything ever happening ever, right? Okay. So the responsible option is not to film their kid, but that's not the more tempting option, is it? No, the option that will keep people coming back for more, that will make Ryland a lifetime's worth of money, that will humanize them, destigmatize them, and make everyone forget about Shane Dawson's disgusting past of racism, sexism, and some real pedophilic seeming activity, to put it mildly. That overall beneficial option looming over these guys is the #daddylife option. In this scenario, Shane and Ryland dive headfirst into their new lives as daddy vloggers, being sure to put their sweet little bundle of sunshine's face on camera at least once a week. Oh, how the nostalgic millennials will flock to see the spawn of their beloved edgelord turned soft dad. They'll suffer through Shane's 35-minute conspiracy vlog about how bacon is really just thinly sliced ham, just to catch a glimpse of Shane's blessed infant. That'll make it worthwhile to them. Oh, the relatability. Oh, the fantasy. Oh, the distraction from the skeletons bursting out of Shane's closet. No. Don't look over there. See the cute little baby. And I get the appeal for the creators as well as for the audience. So I get why Shane and Ryland will probably choose this path. Based on their past, what is the most likely outcome? This path. It makes sense to me, but it's just so frustrating to see. I don't want to be cynical about this because the cynical choice, this choice, is going to have such negative impacts on their kids. It's so frustrating to see this very likely outcome looming ahead of us when we've heard stories like Shari Franke's,
several non-vlogging internet examples like Piper Raquel, Ryan's Toy Review, and Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio as put on display in the D'Amelio Show,
like Jeanette McCurdy's, like Allison Stoner's, just to name a few. Or to go back a generation to Shane's generation, the Olsen twins, Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, all of these child stars that were forced into fame at a young age.
Maddie Ziegler has been in the spotlight since she was 8. In a recent interview she did with Cosmopolitan, she shared what her experience was like growing up. From the young age of 8, she was forced to work crazy hours for filming, missing 50 days of school. Her life also got further intensified when at competitions people were constantly coming up to her and asking her for her autograph. As soon as she left, an incredible weight was lifted off her shoulders. When asked if she would take back her experiences, she said no, but that she often wished that no one knew her.
And their parents probably had good intentions. They thought they were giving their kids the gift of opportunities and money, and they don't really care. They're just having fun doing their acting thing. When the kids grow up and later tell us it was hell. We've seen over and over again how these overexposed children paid a high price for it before they even knew what was going on, and definitely before they had a choice in the matter. As viewers, as a society, we have to stop pretending that this behavior is not exploitative. We are well aware of this issue at this point, and we have to stop pretending that we're not, which means we have to act to do something about it. And to be clear, again, I don't mind so much if Shane and Ryland want to share their IVF journey and their experience and their emotions with that, because that's about them. And no matter what the outcome is, their experience is very real. There are plenty of parents who've had success with IVF, plenty of parents who have not, and no matter what happens, Shane and Ryland sharing that publicly, whether it's joy or whether it's grief, could be very valuable. But do we really believe, after all of this buildup, after all of these videos documenting their journey, that once their baby is born, Shane and Ryland will suddenly exercise restraint and will choose not to film their little one? No, of course I don't believe that. And the life of this child being very publicly born to at least one highly problematic parent who has hurt and offended millions of people and still refuses to own up to it fully is one of the saddest, frustrating things that I can think of. There are plenty of people who think that this is all for the purpose of rehabilitating their reputations, turning their sweet little infant into the proverbial sponge that will wipe away and clean up every trace of dirt and filth and problem and nast from Shane and Ryland's past, mostly Shane's. But the thing is, a sponge is a tool that is meant to do a dirty job, that is meant to make dirty things clean, and is disposable. A baby is not. A baby is a life. A baby is a person. A child is not disposable. Do not make your kid clean this up. That's a conspiracy. Shane loves conspiracies. It's not confirmed, and certainly I don't think it ever would be. But we know how the internet is. Once that kid can read, they're gonna be in the comment sections reading what the internet has to say about their parents and about them simply for being a product of their parents. I can't imagine how that's going to impact their mental health. All of this is so avoidable. If before a baby is born, Shane finally comes forward and not just apologizes again, but gets specific, gets real, gets honest, and talks about specifically actions that he took for reparations and for self-improvement, because all that we have seen is him backing up and being quiet for a while and then slowly re-emerging. That's his typical pattern. But what I want to hear is, while I was being quiet, staying offline, I was taking courses. I was talking to people about this. I was watching documentaries. I was educating myself on these topics so as not to continue offending people repeatedly. That's how the negative comments part gets avoided. The other parts about simply growing your kid up online, there's gonna be comments no matter what. Shari talks about the negative comments about her. When she was a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid, she didn't do anything. She's a kid. But people still had shit to say about her. Do you think it's gonna be any different for you? I mean, I know your comment sections are very heavily moderated, but still, it's at least gonna impact you while you go through and have to moderate all that shit. Once again, Shane is faced with the apologies that he's never made, how they're going to continue to impact not only him, but potentially impact his kid, and how even if his slate was entirely clean, he has ample evidence in front of him of how negatively family vlogging can impact children. And he's faced with this choice. Do I take the responsible road once my child is born and put down the camera, stop filming them, let them live their life offline? Or are they going to make the choice to point that camera toward that baby and monetize their kid, regardless of what it may do to their own mental health and their own future? A dirty sponge? A sacrificial lamb? What is a kid, really? You tell me.
Final thoughts.
That's my thoughts on where we're at so far with Shane and Ryland's parenting journey, with Shari being brave and coming forward and sharing her own experience growing up in family vlogging, and the inevitable choice that Shane and Ryland have to make. What are the chances that Shane and Ryland will make the responsible, simple, easy choice, the choice of doing less work and just putting the camera down? Couldn't say. Probably not going to happen. They're going to film every waking moment of that baby. Okay. But let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. I'm very curious to see if this video makes sense in your heads the way that it makes sense in mine. Have you been keeping up with Shane? Have you been keeping up with Ruby and Jody and Connections and 8 Passengers and that whole saga that's been going on? Do you want me to talk about the more culty, religious side of it, the self-help group part of it, including Shari's thoughts on that, or any other topics you want me to talk about? Let me know all of it in the comments below.
Don't go yet. There are a couple quick announcements that are important for me to tell you guys. First of all, you may have noticed that my 2 Gabbie Hanna videos from 2022 are no longer showing up on my YouTube channel. Basically, long story short, I was having some algorithm issues with my channel, and after some discussions with learned people, it seemed that the best way to help my channel was to private those 2 videos, but they are not gone. They are both still available on my Patreon, which, if you haven't checked it out, you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. And your membership there is not required, of course, but it is a huge help to me as I tend to make videos on topics that YouTube likes to demonetize. In the future, if I have any other videos that I feel that I need to private for the sake of helping my channel not get squashed anymore by the algorithm, I will make a point of making sure they are still available to my audience somewhere, and right now the best place for me to do that is Patreon. So if you're wondering, that's what happened there. Secondly, I am looking for video editors, either somebody who on their own has a lot of time on their hands and is good at quick turnaround for videos, or multiple people who feel like they can be part of a team, so that way I can distribute work evenly among multiple people and get things done that way. Most of why I upload so sporadically is because I'm the one doing the majority of my video editing, and to put it frankly, I'm bad at it, and after researching a video, writing it, and filming it, by the time I get to the editing process, I'm so burnt out from a topic. I really want to move on from it, and the editing process is really daunting. Part of why it takes so long is just that I'm so exhausted by a topic that I cannot listen to myself talk about it for any longer, but I have to in order to edit. So if anybody wants to help me out, I'm willing to pay, with the understanding that I am not rich and my channel has not been doing well recently compared to where it was at this time last year. My budget is not infinite, but I do want to pay people appropriately for their work. I feel more comfortable paying people than not. And of course, as I can put out more content, the channel will grow, I will make more money, I'll be able to pay more business, we can talk outside of the video. So anyway, this is my call for editors. I'm especially talking about it here in a video because I would love to have editors from my audience who are familiar with my content, my values, my morals, my style, and the quality of content that I would like to be able to put out. Please email me at the email address listed in the description of this video if you are interested, or even if you just have any questions, comments, concerns about it. I would be happy to chat with you about it. I will get back to any emails I receive in a timely fashion.
If you like this video, please give it a like, please subscribe to my channel, set your notifications to all, maybe share this video with a pal. That would really help. I am trying to grow my channel and make this into a career. A way that you can help me is to share, to like, subscribe, notify, etc. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you and your time, the fact that you're spending your time here with me. Have a lovely day. Peace be with you always. Bye. Is playing the national anthem. Oops, not me doxing myself, Jesus. And the home of the brave.